Hi, fifth graders. I would like to continue to read The Phantom Tollbooth to you, even though I'm not there with you today. So I thought I would record myself reading it, and then Mrs. DeClean could play the video of me reading so that you still get to hear part of The Phantom Tollbooth today. The reason I really like being the one that reads the read aloud is that I don't want to miss any part of it. And it just makes me feel better when I am the one reading it. So the reason I'm doing it on Zoom is that on video, instead of just recording my voice, is that there's some pretty cool pictures that I want to make sure that I show you. So I'm going to continue the chapter entitled A Very Dirty Bird. And as Milo was walking up the stairs of infinity, he realized that he was never getting closer to the end, and he was never getting closer to the end because it went on for infinity. And he came across somebody who looked like that, and that is a half a person. What he called him was a half a person. Half a child. And the child said, it's 58 hundredths. To be precise, replied the child from the left side of his mouth, which happened to be the only side of his mouth. I beg your pardon, said Milo. It's 58 hundredths, he repeated. It's a bit more than half. Have you always been that way? Asked Milo impatiently, for he felt that it was a needlessly fine distinction. My goodness, no, the child assured him. A few years ago, I was just 42 hundredths, and believe me, that was terribly inconvenient. What is the rest of your family like? Asked Milo, this time a bit more sympathetically. Oh, we're just the average family, he said thoughtfully. Mother, father, and 2.58 children. And as I explained, I'm the 58 hundredths. It must be rather odd being only part of a person, Milo remarked. Not at all, said the child. Every average family has 2.58 children. So I always have someone to play with. Besides, each family also has an average of 1.3 automobiles, and since I'm the only one who can drive 3/10 of a car, I get to use it all the time. But averages aren't real, objected Milo. They're just imaginary. That may be so, he agreed, but they're also very useful at times. For instance, if you didn't have any money at all, but you happened to be with 4 other people who had $10 apiece, then you'd each have an average of $8. Isn't that right? I guess so, said Milo weakly. Well, think of how much better off you'd be just because of an average, he explained convincingly. And think of the poor farmer when it doesn't rain all year. If there wasn't an average yearly rainfall of 37 inches in that part of the country, all his crops would wither and die. Doesn't really matter, does it? It all sounded terribly confusing to Milo, for he had always had trouble in school with just this subject. There are still other advantages, continued the child. For instance, if one rat were cornered by 9 cats, then on average, each cat would be 10% rat, and the rat would be 90% cat. If you happened to be a rat, you could see how much nicer it would make things. But that could never be, said Milo, jumping up to his feet. Don't be too sure, said the child patiently. For one of the nicest things about mathematics, or anything else you might care to learn, is that many of the things which can never be often are. You see, he went on, it's very much like you're trying to reach infinity. You know it's there, but you just don't know where. But just because you can never reach it doesn't mean that it's not worth looking for. I hadn't thought of it that way, said Milo, starting down the stairs. I think I'll go back now. A wise decision, the child agreed. But try again someday. Perhaps you'll get much closer. And as Milo waved goodbye, he smiled warmly, which he usually did on average of 47 times per day. Everyone here knows so much more than I do, thought Milo as he leaped from step to step. I'll have to do a lot better if I'm going to rescue the princesses. What are the princesses' names again? Rhyme and Reason. In a few moments, he'd reached the bottom again and burst into the workshop where Talk and Humbug were eagerly watching the math magician perform. Ah, back already, he cried, greeting him with a friendly wave. I hope you found what you were looking for. I'm afraid not, admitted Milo, and then he added in a very discouraged tone, everything in Digitopolis is much too difficult for me. The math magician nodded knowingly and stroked his chin several times. You'll find, he remarked gently, that the only thing you can do easily is be wrong, and that's hardly worth the effort. Milo tried very hard to understand all the things he'd been told and all the things he'd seen, and as he spoke, one curious thing still bothered him. Why is it, he said quietly, that quite often even the things which are correct just don't seem right? A look of deep melancholy crossed the math magician's face, and his eyes grew moist with sadness. Everything was silent, and it was several minutes before he was able to reply at all. How very true, he sobbed, supporting himself on the staff. It has been that way since Rhyme and Reason were banished. Quite so, began the humbug. I personally feel that, and all because of that stubborn wretch, Azaz. Sorry, I always have trouble with that name. Azaz, roared the math magician, completely overwhelming the bug, for now his sadness had changed to fury, and he stalked around the room, adding up anger and multiplying wrath. It's all his fault. Perhaps if you discussed it with him, Milo started to say, but never had time to finish. He's much too unreasonable, interrupted the math magician again. Why, just last month, I sent him a very friendly letter, which he never had the courtesy to answer. See for yourself. He handed Milo a copy of the letter, which read, looks like that. 47381919. 667-394017. 5841. 62589. 8537114. 39588. 7190434. 203 27689 57131 4812006. 5864-98053, 62179875073. But maybe he doesn't understand numbers, said Milo, who found it a little difficult to read himself. Nonsense, he bellowed. Everyone understands numbers, no matter what language you speak. They always mean the same thing. A 7 is a 7 anywhere in the world. My goodness, thought Milo, everybody is so terribly sensitive about things they know best. With your permission, said Talk, changing the subject, we'd like to rescue Rhyme and Reason. Has Azaz agreed to this? The math magician inquired. Yes, sir, the dog assured him. Then I don't, he thundered again. For since they've been banished, we've never agreed on anything, and we never will. He emphasized his last remark with a dark and ominous look. Never? Asked Milo with the slightest touch of disbelief in his voice. Never, he repeated. And if you can prove otherwise, you have my permission to go. Well, said Milo, who had thought about this problem very carefully ever since leaving Dictionopolis. Then, with whatever Azaz agrees, you disagree. Correct, said the math magician with a tolerant smile. And with whatever Azaz disagrees, you agree? Also correct, yawned the math magician, nonchalantly cleaning his fingernails with the point of his staff. Then each of you agree that he will disagree with whatever each of you agrees with, said Milo triumphantly. And if you both disagree with the same thing, then aren't you really in agreement? I've been tricked, cried the math magician helplessly, for no matter how he figured, it still came out just that way. Splendid effort, commented the humbug jovially, exactly the way I would have done it myself. And now may we go, added Talk. The math magician accepted his defeat with grace, nodded weakly, and then drew the three travelers to his side. It's a long and dangerous journey, he began softly, and a furrow of concern creased his forehead. Long before you find them, the demons will know you're there. Watch for them well, he emphasized, for when they appear, it might be too late. The humbug shuddered down to his shoes, and Milo felt the tips of his fingers suddenly grow cold. But there's one problem even more serious than that, he whispered ominously. What is it? Gasped Milo, who was not sure he really wanted to know. I'm afraid I can tell you only when you return. Come along, said the math magician, and I'll show you the way. And simply by carrying the three, he transported them all to the very edge of Digitopolis. Behind them lay all the kingdoms of wisdom, and up ahead a narrow rutted path led toward the mountains and darkness. We'll never get the car of that, said Milo unhappily. True enough, replied the math magician, but you can be in ignorance quick enough without riding all the way. And if you're to be successful, it will have to be step by step. But I would like to take my gifts, he insisted. So you shall, announced the dodecahedron, who appeared from nowhere with his arms full. Here are your sights. Here are your sounds. And here, he said, handing Milo the last of them disdainfully, are your words. And most important of all, added the math magician, here is your own magic stuff. Use it well, and there is nothing it cannot do for you. He placed in Milo's breast pocket a small, gleaming pencil which, except for the size, was much like his very own. Then, with a last word of encouragement, he and the dodecahedron, who was simultaneously, all at the same time, sobbing, frowning, pining, and sighing from four of his saddest faces, made their farewells and watched as the three tiny figures disappeared into the forbidden mountains of ignorance. I almost stopped the recording without showing you this picture. There they are, looking out at their path that they'll need to take. That looks dangerous. All right. That's all I'm going to read today. And I hope that you had enough time to eat your snack. And I would love it if you would talk to Mrs. DeClean about what we've been reading and what's going on in the book. And I hope you are being well behaved, and I will see you tomorrow.